You ever feel like the world's got a sick joke and you're the punchline? Yeah, that's what life does. It strips you bare, leaves you standing in the cold, and watches you shiver. But listen to me, no one's coming. No one's gonna wrap you in a warm embrace and tell you it's all gonna be fine. You gotta be your own damn fire. People, they're a passing storm. 1 minute, they're here, pretending to care, whispering lies about how they'll stay. The next, gone, like smoke in the wind. And you're left with nothing but their footprints, reminders of what once was, echoes of promises that turned to dust. But hear me, it's okay to be alone. See, they taught you wrong. They told you that you need them, that loneliness is a disease, that silence is something to fear. Nah, they don't get it. They don't understand what real strength looks like. They don't know the power of a man who walks his path alone, unchained, unstoppable. You want the truth? The strongest ones? They don't belong to the crowd. They don't need a pack to define them. They forge their own way, and they do it in silence. Because crowds, they're distractions. They feed on your energy, drain your soul, and leave you empty. But when you stand alone, that's when you find yourself. That's when you hear the only voice that matters, your own. People love to talk about loyalty, but tell me, where were they when you needed them? When your world was burning, who stood by you? No one. And that's the lesson. Loyalty is a lie when it's not yours. So don't depend on it. Don't wait for someone to save you. You are your own salvation. It hurts, doesn't it? That realization, that cold, bitter truth. But pain is a gift. It wakes you up. It teaches you. Every scar on your soul is a lesson written in blood. And the ones who can endure it, they become untouchable. You ever see a real warrior beg for company? Nah. They walk alone, and they do it with pride, because they know attachments are chains. They slow you down, they make you weak. And the world, it doesn't give a damn about your weakness. It only respects strength. Look in the mirror. Look at the battle scars. The tired eyes, the weight on your shoulders. You've carried hell inside you, and yet you're still standing. That means something. That means you're still in the fight. So stop crying about who left. Stop wasting breath on who betrayed you. They did what people do. They came. They used, they left, and now it's your turn to rise. You don't need them, you never did. You are the storm, the fire, the war, and from this day on, you walk alone. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. And when they see you again, when they realize what they lost, let them choke on the regret. Let them drown in the silence you leave behind. Because a man who walks alone, he doesn't need to be understood. He only needs to be feared. You ever notice how the world never stops for anyone? How people walk past pain like it's just another street light flickering in the dark. That's because they don't care. They never did. They only care when it's convenient for them, when it makes them look good, when they can feed off your suffering like parasites, sucking the last drops of blood from an open wound. And that's the first thing you gotta understand. You were never meant to be saved. No hero is coming. No one is watching your struggle with tears in their eyes, waiting for the perfect moment to reach out and lift you up. Number. This world lets you drown, and when you finally stop thrashing, it acts like you were never there to begin with. That's why the strongest ones, they don't wait, they don't beg, they don't waste their breath calling out for help that'll never come. They become their own saviors. Loneliness, it's not a curse, it's a forge. It burns you, melts you down, strips you to the core, and then reshapes you into something unbreakable. You think the greats, the legends, the ones who leave their mark, were surrounded by love and warmth. Number, they were alone. They walked through fire by themselves. They endured every betrayal, every wound, every night that felt like it would never end. And when the sun finally rose, they stood, scarred but unshaken, while the weak ones who once pitied them faded into nothing. That's your destiny, if you're willing to embrace it. You see, weakness dies in solitude. When there's no one to lean on, no one to pick up the pieces, no one to whisper comforting lies in your ear. You're forced to grow. You're forced to harden, and in that process, you realize something. People were the distraction all along. They made you doubt yourself. They made you hesitate. They fed you dreams that were never yours, convinced you that their approval mattered. But now you see the truth. They were nothing but noise. And now, in this silence, in this cold, in this emptiness, this is where you find your real power. You ever notice how people love to claim they'll be there no matter what? That they'll never leave, that they'll always have your back. Funny, isn't it? Because when the fire starts, when the darkness creeps in, when the weight of the world finally lands on your shoulders, they vanish, one by one. They scatter like ashes in the wind, and you're left standing in the ruins, choking on the smoke of all the promises that burned away. But that's good, that's necessary, because it teaches you the most brutal and liberating truth of all. You don't need them. Love, friendship, loyalty. These are fairy tales sold to the weak to keep them shackled, their chains disguised as comforts. The moment you start believing in them, you give people power over you. And people, they're selfish. They will take, they will drain. They will use you for as long as you serve a purpose. And the second you become inconvenient, you're nothing, a forgotten name, a shadow in the past. That's why you walk alone, not because you're unlovable, not because you're broken, but because you refuse to be owned. Strength isn't about lifting weights. It isn't about how loud you roar, how many battles you fight. True strength? It's standing alone and not flinching. It's facing the abyss and not begging for a hand to pull you back. It's knowing you could reach out, knowing you could ask for help, and choosing not to, because you understand what they don't. You were never meant to belong to anyone. You were meant to be untouchable. The world will tell you that being alone is a flaw, that isolation is something to fear. But think about it. Why do they push that so hard? Because they're scared. Scared of the ones who don't need the herd. Scared of the ones who operate in silence, who move unseen, who don't seek validation or approval. Because those are the ones who can't be controlled. The ones who don't need permission to exist. The ones who walk through life on their own terms, answering to no one. They fear that kind of power. And they should. You've been through hell, haven't you? You've watched people you loved turn their backs. You've felt the sting of words meant to cut you down. You've been left in the dark with nothing but your own thoughts, screaming at a world that never even turned its head to listen. But you survived, and that's proof. Proof that you don't need them. Proof that you never did. So what now? Do you keep waiting? Keep hoping that someone out there will finally understand? That someone will see your worth without you having to prove it? Number that ends today. From this moment on, you walk forward, alone, unapologetic, unchained. You speak less, you observe more. You let them wonder where you went, let them whisper about what happened to you. But you don't look back, you don't explain yourself. You let them choke on the silence you leave behind. Because a warrior doesn't need an audience. A storm doesn't need permission to destroy. And you were never meant to be tamed. So embrace it. Own it. Be the man who stands alone and doesn't break. Because when the dust settles, when the weak ones fall, when the noise finally dies down, Only the strongest will remain. And you were always meant to be one of them. You ever sit in silence and hear nothing but the weight of your own thoughts? That heavy, crushing sound of everything you've lost, everything that never was, everything that never will be. That's the sound of reality stripping you down to the bone, whispering truths no one else has the guts to say. You don't need them. You never did. But it took every betrayal, every abandoned promise, every night of screaming into the void for you to understand it. Because that's how the world teaches, through pain, through fire, through loss so deep, it carves its name into your soul and never lets you forget. People don't want to hear that, though. They want their comforting illusions, their fairy tales of friendship, love, loyalty, words they throw around without knowing the weight of them. But you've lived the truth. You've watched those words shatter into nothing when you needed them most. And that's why you stand alone now. Not because you chose solitude, but because the world made sure it was the only choice you had left. And that was the best gift it ever gave you. See, when you're alone, there's no one to lie to you, no one to manipulate you with sweet words and hollow gestures, no one to tell you they'll stay, only to leave when it's convenient, no one to fill your ears with promises, then disappear when the storm hits. When you're alone, the only voice left is yours. And that's where the real power is. Because you can lie to yourself for a while, but eventually the truth bleeds through. Eventually, you look in the mirror and see the only person who's ever truly been there. And that's when it clicks. This is all you've ever had. This is all you'll ever need. But they won't understand that. They'll call you bitter, broken, angry. Let them. They don't know what it's like to be reforged in fire. They don't know what it means to stand in the ruins of everything you once believed in and build something stronger from the ashes. They don't know what it's like to walk away from the world, not because you were abandoned, but because you chose to leave, because you saw through the lies, because you refused to be another puppet, another fool, another nameless face, drowning in the noise. They'll try to pull you back, try to convince you that you need them, that loneliness is a weakness. But listen to me, they are the weak ones. They are the ones who fear silence, who crumble the moment they're left alone with their thoughts, who need constant validation, constant attention, constant noise just to feel alive. They think being surrounded by people makes them strong. But the second those people disappear, they fall. Because they were never standing on their own in the first place. And you don't fall, not anymore. Because you've already lost everything and kept moving. Because you've already felt the kind of pain that breaks most people and came out the other side. Because you've learned how to stand without anyone holding you up. And now you're untouchable. Think about it. Who's more powerful? The man who needs the world to survive, or the man who walks through it with nothing and keeps going? Who's more dangerous? The one desperate for approval, or the one who doesn't give a damn? Who's more real? The one drowning in fake connections, or the one who cut all the dead weight and walks alone? You know the answer. You've always known. But it took being shattered for you to see it clearly. And now that you do, you never go back. Never again. Never will you let them back in. Never will you allow yourself to be weakened by their presence. Because you've seen what they do. You've seen how temporary they are. You've seen that their love is conditional, their loyalty a performance, their words nothing more than smoke. And you don't have time for illusions, not anymore. They'll call it loneliness, you'll call it freedom, they'll call it bitterness, you'll call it clarity, they'll call it darkness, you'll call it truth. Because that's what this is, the truth, the one they run from, the one they deny, the one they fight so hard to ignore, because facing it means admitting that everything they believe in is a lie. But you don't run from it. You stare it dead in the eyes and embrace it, because it's the only thing that never left, the only thing that never betrayed you, the only thing that was always real. And now you walk forward, leaving them behind like dust in the wind. They'll wonder where you went. They'll whisper about what happened to you. They'll tell stories about the man who vanished, the man who changed, the man who became something they'll never understand. But you won't hear them. You won't care, because you don't exist in their world anymore. You've risen above it, moved beyond it, and the silence they fear, it's the kingdom you now rule. Let them talk, let them guess, let them fear the man who walks alone, because in the end, when the weak ones crumble, when the liars are exposed, when the world finally burns down to its rawest form, only the strongest will remain. There comes a moment when you stop waiting, a moment when you realize that every single person you ever counted on was just another ghost passing through your life. Another fleeting shadow, whispering empty words before vanishing into the void. And in that moment, when you finally understand that no one is coming to save you, no one is fighting for you, no one is staying for you, that's when you wake up. That's when you step out of the illusion. That's when you stop being the fool who believes in the lies they sell. Because that's all it ever was, a lie. They told you that love lasts, that friendships are forever, that loyalty is unbreakable, and you wanted so badly to believe it. You wanted so badly for it to be true, for someone, anyone, to prove that not everyone is the same. But the world is a cruel teacher, and it showed you the truth in the most brutal way possible. It tore it all away. It stripped you down, left you standing in the wreckage of every false promise, every wasted hope, every naive belief you once clung to. And now you see clearly. Now you understand that the only thing that was ever real was you. People talk about pain like it's something to be avoided, like it's something to run from. They don't understand. Pain is the only thing that ever told you the truth. It didn't sugarcoat. It didn't lie. It didn't pretend to be something it wasn't. Pain showed up when everyone else disappeared. It sat with you in the dark, whispered its lessons in your ear, forced you to face what no one else would. It broke you apart so you could rebuild yourself into something stronger, something untouchable, something that no one would ever be able to break again. And yet they tell you to fear it, to numb it, to drown it in distractions, in meaningless conversations, in temporary people who do nothing but delay the inevitable. But you don't run anymore. You don't numb yourself. You let the pain sharpen you. You let it carve its wisdom into your bones. Let it turn you into something beyond the reach of the weak ones who still live in their delusions. Because you are not them. You do not fear the dark anymore. Look around. Look at how easily they fall apart. Look at how fragile they are, how desperate they are to belong, to be accepted, to be wanted. They think that being surrounded means being strong. They think that having people means they're safe. But when the storm comes, when the fire spreads, when the world finally shows them how merciless it truly is, they break, they shatter, they cling to anyone, anything, begging for someone to hold them together. But you don't beg, you don't cling, you don't break, because you already walked through hell alone, and you made it out alive. Because you already faced the worst of it, and instead of letting it destroy you, you let it transform you. Now when the fire comes, you don't run from it. You stand in the flames and let them burn away the last pieces of who you used to be. They'll never understand that. They'll never understand you. They'll look at you and call you cold, call you distant, call you heartless. Let them. They don't know what it took for you to become this way. They don't know the nights you spent staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence, feeling every scar throb with the weight of what you've lost. They don't know the conversations you had with yourself, the wars you fought in your own mind, the strength it took just to wake up every morning and keep going when there was no reason left to. And now they want to label you. Now they want to act like they have you figured out. They think you're bitter. They think you're damaged. They think that just because you refuse to let them in, you must be broken. But they don't realize you're not broken. You're free. Free from their illusions. Free from their expectations. Free from the need to be anything other than exactly what you are. You are not like them. You do not crave their approval. You do not seek their comfort. You do not wait for their acceptance. You walk alone, and you do it without hesitation. Because you finally understand that solitude is not a curse. It is a gift, a sanctuary, a place where the weak cannot follow, where the noise of the world fades away, where you can hear the only voice that ever mattered, your own. And when they come back, when they realize they lost something they can never replace, when they reach out with trembling hands, whispering apologies, trying to pull you back into the world you left behind, you do not turn around. You do not soften. You do not let them undo the work that pain has done. Because you've seen what happens when you let them in. You've seen what happens when you trust, when you believe, when you allow yourself to need anyone. And you will never make that mistake again. They had their chance. They wasted it. And now you keep walking, leaving them in the past where they belong. Let them wonder where you went. Let them whisper about what happened to you. Let them lie to themselves, saying they never needed you in the first place. Because in the end, when the dust settles, when the weak ones fall, when all that remains is silence, you will still be standing. And that is the only victory that ever mattered. You are not waiting anymore. You are not hoping anymore. You are not longing anymore. You are free. And that is worth more than anything they could ever offer.